Ready? Okay. We'll call this meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Roll call, Darlene? Do you want the roll call? Sure. Great.
Kathy McCarthy.
I'm here.
Jake Strickler, absent.
Absent.
Darlene Warner, I'm here. Chris Nettles is absent. Joe Schneider, absent. Mel McMurray. Mel is
Here.
here. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking into the microphone. Test. There we go.
Everything's good.
Mel is present, and we do have a quorum.
I am. Great. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's so different to hear that said by adults and not, 10-year-olds with shenanigans. Of course, that does not reflect my own class at all. Okay, so we will start with approving our agenda and minutes. I have one minor change. The 7:10 item of et cetera is actually just a short announcement, so we can technically strike that.
The winter recreation.
We will still hear about winter recreation operations plan, but we'll hear it much earlier as an announcement. I don't know of any other changes.
Other than Jessica's here too.
Did I not put Jessica here?
We had her as not available. We had her as not available, but she's obviously available.
She's here. Sorry about that. That's a clerical error on my part when I made the agenda. When I copied it from the previous month. Anything else? Anyone in the room could make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you, Robert Stark. Second, thank you, Elliot. All in favor? Aye. We have an agenda. Minutes were over by the door. And I don't know if anyone got a chance to check them out previously. Any comments? Move to
Adopt them.
approve the minutes?
He gets to take them home with him because he adopted
You
them.
have to feed it.
Okay, Elliot for the first. Second. I'm sorry.
Anyone want a second? Thank you, Inez.
Inez,
All in
yeah.
favor of approving our minutes
Aye.
from the previous meeting? Aye. Any opposed? We have minutes. And everyone's favorite time is public short announcements. We're going to hang on to you for a minute, Mr. Richie Butcher. First of all, Lions Club food distribution was today, and there's a few items still left available, so check it out. Anyone can come by and before we adjourn and see what's still left. Also, I wanted to mention the Cobb Elementary School Garden Harvest Gala is this Sunday, so if you're interested in getting tickets, I can share the link with you. Let me know. Oh, you could donate a gift. Or if you can't make it, you could donate. Just make a donation. Anyone else? Short announcements. Okay.
Yes.
Hold on. Sorry. We have a new podium. It's in the back of the room on loan from the Lions Club. Please go to the back of the room and use the podium. Is that okay? Right there. So, and then the camera will pick you up, the camera that's recording these ongoing proceedings.
Yes.
You have microphones, cameras.
check.
There you go.
Looking good.
I just wanted to announce that on Saturday, November 4th, Friends of Boggs Mountain is going to be sponsoring an event right here at Little Red. It's going to be kind of an introduction to map reading and navigation. It's going to be instructed by our own here, Rich Booker, and it's free, and everyone is invited to attend. It'll be about an hour-long class, and I'll kind of give you some basics on navigation at Boggs. Okay? Oh, at 10 o'clock a.m. And I'm asking people to RSVP at FOBM, Friends of Boggs Mountain, at boggsmountain.org.
Is there a age limit or, I mean, recommended?
No age limit, but we do ask that any children under 18 be accompanied by an adult.
Be accompanied by an adult.
Right?
Okay.
Should we bring a compass?
Bring a compass if you have one, yeah, absolutely. And we'll provide maps. Anything
There
else
are
you think we'll need, Rich, or anything else you think we'll need? Other than bring a compass, like say? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. An actual compass, not this one. What?
Thank you.
Any other short announcements? Okay,
Yes, Glenna, can you hear me?
oh, yes, Gleneth, go ahead.
Yeah, just a heads up. One that the Cobb Elementary Gala, this esteemed artist Gleneth Lambert has donated a piece in the auction, so you might be the proud owner, whoever that guy is. I've heard strange stories about him. Anyhow, our sculpture jam started last weekend. It was a rousing success. We have one more weekend where people are putting together their pieces, and if anybody wants to participate in that, you'd be more than welcome. Just reach out to me, and that number is 707-295-6934. It will be both Saturday and Sunday. I think we settled on, it's either 9 to 4 or 10 to 5, but I should know by the time anyone calls, hopefully. But yeah, we got room for people that might want to contribute and just play with some of the ideas that are happening there.
Okay.
That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Gleneth. No, I should do this differently. There. Okay. Public and board comment on any non-agenda item, and since our 710 item has been struck, it is now a non-agenda item.
My name is Jessica Peiska. I'm the District 5 Supervisor, and I wanted to let everybody know that I am running for re-election. You can find out more about my campaign at supervisorjessicapeiska.com. It has been an incredible privilege to serve. It's not even been 3 years yet, but that's just how these things work. We've been doing a lot of wonderful things that I've been reporting out to you all almost monthly. Putting the pieces together for some really great things that are coming down the pike, and I'm going to keep reporting out to you on all of those things. Economically, we've got the tree projects, hazard tree removal projects that's going to be happening. So lots of really wonderful things. I've appreciated a lot of your support over the years, and if you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. All of my contact information is on my website. Or I'm here almost every month. Thanks.
Yay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Richard Booker. I'm the Assistant Forest Manager at Boggs Mountain Demonstration State Forest. That's managed by CAL FIRE and the Sonoma Lake Napa Unit. I am here to give the community a notice ahead of time about the forest transition from summer to wintertime management beginning November 1st and until forecasted wetting events lessen, which is typically April 1st. That's probably what we shoot for. The main difference in winter operations are the temporary road closures. During wetting events, that are that are at or greater than a half inch, or for possibly extended periods for roads to dry out after snow or atmospheric rivers when we get 5, 10, 15 inches in a few days. We'll have the gate closed for until there's a drying period. But beginning November 1st, our voicemail at the forest office will reflect the road conditions. So even if you if you can't get a hold of anybody, it will be on our voicemail on whether or not vehicle access will be allowed onto the forest. If it's dry, it's most likely going to be open. If it's wet and rainy, it's probably going to be closed. So we do this to prevent a long-term damage, much similar to what happened on the 400 road, where it slid down the hill a little bit, which that road has been opened as of yesterday. But most importantly, for public safety and not having to augment emergency response on the forest where road conditions are already poor, and putting our responders at risk during inclement weather conditions. This has happened before, so we try to mitigate these type of issues. Seasonal roads, these are roads that are compacted native soils. We ask that during the wetting period when the gate is open for vehicle traffic to stay off, just so they can stay in good shape. Trails. Please coordinate with the Friends of Boggs Mountain about trail issues or how to get involved in maintenance and construction. I will speak on their behalf on this point, but much like the road closures, please avoid going out during inclement weather conditions. If the trails are wet to where there's standing water, please give the trails a break so they can properly drain off, and it doesn't detour Friends of Boggs having to make repairs from making new trails. Camping was unfortunately closed for this summer and will remain closed as usual during the winter period. I hope to have that resolved by next year. Permits. Firewood and rock permits are on sale by appointment only. Cost is $20 cash or check and valid for 1 year date of issue. Special use permits are also available at a variable rate for organized events such as weddings, mountain bike events, Boy Scouts, etc. And ending, the forest is always open for day use from sunrise to sunset. Even when vehicle access is restricted to the main parking lot, you are always allowed to go out onto the forest by foot, mountain bike, or horseback. You can call the State Forest phone number about road conditions or any other questions you might have. That phone number is 707-928-4378. Again, it's 707-928-4378. Thank you.
Actually, every time you said wedding events, I was like, oh, weddings? Who's getting married? It's a lovely place for a wedding. All right, any other public or board comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Supervisors' comments. Jessica Peitzke is available. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Really sorry to have missed last month's meeting, but I'll get to that and why. Everyone is very excited if you live in the Gulf Road neighborhood or up on Cobb Boulevard, because you are getting new roads from PG&E because they damaged the roads so badly during the burying of the lines. And I got a question from Gwyneth about the areas where in between the new roads where there hasn't been repairs. So this is, PG&E has one contractor repairing or rebuilding the roads where the lines were buried. And they have a different contractor who is going to be rebuilding the roads in the areas that were damaged, but there was no undergrounding. So it's not how I would do it, but They are going to come back, a different contractor is going to come back and get those other areas, Glennis, that have been really badly damaged. That is what I've been told. So you can pass that along. I don't know, I don't have a timeline for that. I hope it's soon, but we are getting to the end of the season when asphalt is generally done, so I don't know. But that's the plan. They really messed those roads up, and we held them accountable, and that area has new roads because of it. I suspect that they're probably not ever going to make those mistakes again because it's a very costly repair that they've been forced to do. But we did get new roads out of it. I apologize for the inconvenience that caused a lot of people because it was a very inconvenient situation. So you will notice on Bottle Rock that there's a lot of grinding that's happened, and that is with the undergrounding also because they are doing, I think it's called a lateral trench where it goes along the lane. If anyone does a trench like that, they have to replace the whole lane. If you're just crossing a road, then they usually just do a patch. But that's why Bottle Rock looks the way that it is right now, and so those lanes where they did the trenching will be replaced. Last time I was here, which was in August, we had a conversation about the roads. We do have a 10-year plan. We did approve a contract for the engineering of all the plans to be built so that we can start progressing on our 10-year plan. So the Cobb roads should happen in the next 2 years, but we have undergrounding that needs to happen. And PG&E does want to underground from Rainbow to Sulphur Creek. And they said they would do that in the next 3 to 4 years, and we said, you're going to do it next year? Because that road is not going to make it. Bottle Rock is in too bad of shape. It won't make it past 2025, and that's what we're giving them next year to do it, and then we'll do it after that. The rest of the Cobb roads are still on that plan, but this is tens of millions of dollars, so they are on the plan. We are getting the engineering plans built, but we do have to seek outside funding. We do not get nearly enough funding for these projects. So the good news is that Cobb roads are at the top of the list, and we're going to be hustling for all the funding that we can get. But besides PG&E's undergrounding, we still have Cobb water improvements that have to happen in different neighborhoods. And nobody wants to cut open a new road. We've learned that lesson, and nobody wants to do it again. There will be a 5-year moratorium on a new road. Anyone that cuts into it will have to replace the whole lane. If they cut all the way through it, they're going to have to replace both lanes. So that moratorium is not in effect. We haven't even created the ordinance yet, but it's happening as we start to develop the plans for the roads. So we just need to be a little bit more patient. I know our roads are in bad shape, but the 10-year plan is for the whole county, and like I said, the good news is Cobb roads are at the top. Does anybody have questions about the roads? Because I have a list of things. We can just... Yay! Yes, it's amazing. Any other questions? All right, I'll move on to the next thing. The Resource Conservation District got a PG&E grant. They're doing vegetation abatement work in several areas, 3 areas of the South County. The area in the Cobb area is along Ziegler Canyon, and so next week or first week in November, they're going to have the masticating head out Ziegler Canyon and doing some of that fuels work out there. The Fire Safe Council just received a Fire Safe Council grant, $500,000 for defensible space. That's going to help people that are low income or seniors that need help with their defensible space. I think it'll be about $1,500 per home. So we're just trying to get that rolling. And they're going to be rolling out that program to let people know how they can apply. It's a countywide program. Anything else about that? It's through the Fire Safe Council. Well, the Fire Safe Council is developing, and the RCD is developing how they're going to do that outreach to make sure that people are aware of the program. Fire Safe Council, firesaflake.org. I'm not sure if it's getting updated though. It's not updated. But
Fire Safe Lake.
firesaflake.org is the Fire Safe Council website.
Okay.
We are putting a lot of resources into building up both the RCD and the Fire Safe Council. And with that is bringing on staff and getting the website back up and running and updated. So there's a lot happening right there. It's really exciting. But again, these things all just take time. The really big news that we did last week or the week before, I can't remember. We approved a $1.7 million contract with a consultant to update the general plan and the area plans, which is something that we all have been talking about since the beginning of the Cobb Area Council in 2016. The Cobb area plan was created in 1989 and hasn't been updated since. It's not the oldest. Lower Lake is the oldest in 1988. It's a document that's available on the website, and that really is the guiding document for how a community develops. And during that time, there was a committee that was put together, and they met regularly, and they worked on this document. But now we have a consultant who is going to come to the Cobb Area Council. We're going to have an open community meeting for everyone to give input on how they want the plan. And then there's going to be a lot of surveys and different ways to contribute and participate. And the consultant will write the plan and then bring it back here to get more input before it is adopted. So that is a process that we need everybody involved in. So we just approved that contract. The first thing that they're going to do is start working on the safety element. Then in 2024, we're going to be working on the area plans. It is a very, very aggressive schedule, but these documents are just obscenely out of date. So it's a really important work. It's been a board priority for a long time. This is entirely grant funded, cobbled together from a couple different grants, and part of that is from the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA. We put some of the money from ARPA toward that. Any questions on the area plan? Just show up and be part of it and think about things that you would like to see. I know a lot of legwork's already been done. I'm super excited. We adopted this CWPP, Community Wildfire Prevention Plan, was created in 2009, hasn't been updated since. It was a massive effort with the RCD, the Fire Safe Council, the Risk Reduction Authority, Magdalena. So many people kept asking and pushing and questioning and commenting and participating, and that is also a really important document because that's what we use to apply for grants. For all of our projects have to come back to the CWPP. So if you haven't looked at it, it will be available on our website if it's not yet. It is? Okay. So you can, it's generally vague, so that, I'm sorry, broad, not vague, broad. So that you can write a grant to fit in with the CWP projects, which is what is required for CAL FIRE grants and so many other grants that we're going after right now. So that was a massive job. I think it was 3 years, maybe more. Yeah, I want to say we started demanding 2019 around there. So that was massive. Yay, Magdalena. the hazard mitigation plan, which is another one of our guiding documents that helps us with grant funding. That plan was submitted to FEMA, so we're just awaiting their comments, and then it'll come back in mid-November for board adoption then. And then we can, the next step for that is actually the cities want to join into a multi-jurisdictional hazard plan. So we'll take that fully adopted plan, work with the cities, and develop a multi-jurisdictional plan. And then there's a lot of things in there that need to be implemented too. And we did get the hazard trees in there, in that plan. Yeah. This week, we finally, after a year of searching, hired our housing deputy CAO, which is the person that is wholly and only going to be doing housing for our county. So they're going to start with our developing a housing strategic plan, attracting developers, all the things. They're not going to do anything other than work on housing projects for our county, which, as everybody here knows, is critically important. So I'm really excited. We did a nationwide search. It took a year, but we finally landed somebody. So it's very, very exciting. She started this, or she accepted this week. And the reason I wasn't here last month, because I did a whole bunch of traveling, which is not normal for me, but I just wanted to let you know a couple of the things that I did. I had to do a hearing in front of the CPUC about plain old telephone lines, POTS, and cellular and broadband coverage, because once PG&E starts undergrounding, who is going to maintain the telephone lines? Because PG&E has done all the maintenance with the telephone poles, and so are the carriers going to maintain those lines in that copper? And they probably actually don't want to, because it's really expensive. But if you're in a rural community like ours and we don't have cellular service, most of our territories, that's critical, essential infrastructure. Yes. Right. But this is like, long roads out to the middle of nowhere, or one person at the end of it. Those are the telephone lines that we need to make sure continue to be in existence and maintained. Because not only is it an issue when the power goes out, but people just don't, there's inadequate coverage. And there were some lively conversations with the industry about that.
No doubt.
That's actually posted on my website if you wanted to watch it. I was at the RCRC annual meeting in Monterey. That's our Rural Counties Caucus, which I am a member of that. So that was a 3-day event where we get together and just talk about all rural issues. So it's really important to make those connections. After the fire was the following week in Sonoma. Senator McGuire was the keynote speaker there. They used to be Rebuild North Bay, who has written grants to us. We've gotten, Cobb Council has been the recipient of grants from them years ago. That's how we started renting the hub, right? Yeah. And then the Wildfire and Forest Health Task Force was in Reading. That is the governor's task force that used to be tree mortality, but now is all on fire and forest, and developing the strategies so that the goal is there's 1 million acres of treatment that's happened by 2025, and it's not looking like we're going to make that, so there's a possibility of more funding coming down so that we can make that. So it's about to get even more aggressive with fuels projects, right? Yes. Yeah.
I can say that report, they released the northern
in the toolkit. In the toolkit, yeah. Yeah, and what was super exciting about that panel, and this has Secretary Crowfoot is one of the directors on the executive committee. Tara and Lindsay Daly was on the panel, and she was absolutely incredible. So we were so proud of her to watch her speak and have Secretary Crowfoot just listen to her intently. And along with that, this morning I was out with Tara on the Middletown Rancheria property for their cultural burn this morning, which was absolutely incredible. And over the next many weeks, there are several projects that are happening in the Cobb area. There's a Cobb water property over in Ziegler that's going to be first week of November. Anyway, so you're going to see a lot of burning. The chief is going to talk about the burn ban, but you're going to see smoke in the air. And this is good smoke and good fire and really important for our ecology. So it's just, I know we all get a lot of triggers. There's a lot of smoke out there this morning, but this just has to be something that we're going to live with. And this is the time of year that when it's all going to start happening. And also, I got also appointed to a committee. It's the National Association of Counties. It's a national committee for energy, environment, and land use. So I will be away twice a year for that. Washington, D.C. in February, and in July I was at the NACO conference in Texas, but next year it's somewhere else. So that's why I was gone. I hope you forgive me. Yeah, so it was a lot. I'm really glad to be home. It's true, but I just realized I do have another conference next month for my C.A.C, and that's the California Association of Counties, which is more broad than rural counties. So I'm not going to be here next month because I will be at that conference too. Anything you guys want to bring up or discuss or questions or anything? Mel?
Where, you said there was a video about that meeting with the was it PUCC?
CPUC. It was an all-day workshop. If you go to my website, supervisorjessicapaiska.com,
Okay.
there's it's queued up, the two places. The issue with that is that the providers will never, and this is what they say, they will never see a cost benefit to providing service here. And my argument is these are essential services, and we pay the same rates as everyone else around the country, and we deserve to have the same coverage. And they say, well, if you put more constraints on it, competition will solve everything, and we know that's not true at all. So, yes, it is. That's happening. Also, we our lobbyists at RCRC, which is for all the counties, have submitted our millions and millions of dollar grant plans for middle mile and last mile. And that's for broadband to make sure that we all have connectivity in the rural areas. That was a really big push from the federal government, comes down to the state, and billions. I think it's 2.9 billion. It's a lot of money. And they started kind of tweaking some of the middle mile areas. They cut a lot out of our county, so we're pushing back really hard, because if we don't have that middle mile infrastructure, we're never going to have broadband for all. So it's a lot of this right now.
Question?
Yeah? Go for it.
This is back about, one, I want to thank you for all your tireless work. I know you do a lot of work, and it seems like a lot of it's in the background, but we didn't used to hear a lot of these things, so I'm happy to support you in any way I can with your run again. My question is about the housing director. I'm just curious, If there, it's part of his responsibilities is to deal with the homeless situation, and maybe related, maybe not necessarily. What is the status of small homes, small buildings for people?
Tiny homes? Well, first of all, she's a woman, and she hasn't, I mean, I think she hasn't come into the office yet to start working. We've hired her. She signed the contract. The first thing that she's going to do is start developing that strategic plan, which is going to look at all housing, from low income to middle income, moderate income, senior housing, workforce housing. I'm sure tiny homes will probably be part of the strategy, definitely, helping our friends experiencing homelessness. There's a lot there. It's going to be very broad. And then after that, we can start developing the projects.
I see a question in the chat.
Thank you.
Looking for contact information for the PG&E lead on the other road contractor, the secondary. We don't have the information.
So our good friend Melinda Rivera left PG&E.
Oh.
I know. Her last day, I think, was Monday, and that's the day that she told us she was leaving. So I don't have a contact right now. I'm a little like, I've never not had a contact at PG&E that I could call or text at any minute of any day. Melinda was so great about always answering our questions and always being there, even if we didn't always agree. She was just always there. So I'm hoping she's off to another great adventure and a new career. I have no idea who our new rep is. So holding pattern on all those PG&E questions until I figure it out, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica, again, for all your hard work and for your thorough reports. I think that we're really fortunate to have you come here and share with us information. Fire season updates. There's a podium at the back and a microphone. Turn me around again.
How's that? The fire season update. So we're expecting a little more weather next week, but that is not panning out as much as I had hoped. So we're going to continue kind of in the similar, not so wet, not so dry pattern. Fire season will continue, but the burn ban will be lifted on Monday. So residential burning will be allowed with a valid permit from Air Quality and the Lake County Fire Chiefs Association. That is available on the South Lake County Fire website. And that should go live Monday morning at 8 o'clock for those burn permits. Remind folks just to check your pile size, what you're burning, no trash, no mattresses, no refrigerators, that kind of stuff in the piles. So there will be smoke in the air, so be aware of that. Our staffing is not changing for the foreseeable future until we get some more weather in. Copter will stay, tankers will stay, so no change on the larger front. With that, Jessica spoke with fuel stuff, so I apologize, I missed the first part of that, but that is going to be the theme coming up is fuels projects. So we have a masticator that will be working on Siegler Springs. That's part of the highway egress corridor improvement to get folks out of the community safely. So they will be working a section of Siegler Canyon Road. And that's, it's not a big section, it's just right below kind of between the airport and as it goes, Big Canyon intersection down the hill. Richie, are you going to speak on the move of the office? Or are you just here for, okay. So that is our tentative plan pending the agreement being signed with our Department of General Services is to move the Boggs Forest staff up to where the hub currently is. So that progress is being made on that, but contracts moves very slow, so we'll look forward to that. Yeah, pretty much steady as she goes. Lots of fuels, again, projects, a lot of collaboration. I do want to thank Jessica. She's been a fire under the CWPP, as has Magdalena. So thank you both for that work. A very interesting component of that CWPP is the moving of the appendices out of the plan. So the plan can stay, but the appendices can be a living document where we can change priorities. We can work on different projects. Gives us some flexibility with that. So huge thank you for that, because that is huge. That plan makes us all better for having it together. And then it sounds like there's a couple communities that are getting together for smaller CWPPs, which is totally fine. You can dive down into more of what each community needs as far as wildfire protection. So thank you. Now I'll take any questions. Go ahead, Elliot. Oh, ACI, still waiting on the move for that. It has been approved. The MOU is sitting with the county for the final signature. That will be Highway 175, just north of the sewer ponds in Middletown, across from the Bear Canyon Power Plant Access Road. That'll be the new location for that machine. Looks like we're a go for the move, and hopefully spring of next year we'll have it up and running. So super exciting there. Another good thing. Inez, I didn't hear you.
Are you going to have two of them or one?
We will only have one, but there is a vendor that is looking to bring more into the county, but that's still up in the air. There's also some talk about biomass disposal and the biomass industry that we don't currently have. So if you think on the scale of the 20,000 trees that need to be removed, that is a lot of mass that needs to be dealt with. So working on that. Sir? Yes and no. So not all of that's for the air curtain burner before it leaves. Robert Thomas has been working to get some material there, but he's bringing in a chipper again, very similar to the big one they had, but a little bit bigger. So I think it's a 28 or 32 inch chipper that they're going to bring in there, and to hog those logs up into chips and farm out the community and dispose of the bigger materials. But there may be some that burn in the ACI, but we have figured out that it does not like logs, so that we're not going to try and mess with that process. The 6 inches and less diameter is really where the happy place is for that air curtain burner. So anything bigger than that should be firewood, is really the message we're trying to get out, or chipped up. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Did you get
I got a call from Chris, I have.
excellent, our treasurer report.
Yeah.
Seeing as Chris is absent, he emailed the report to Darlene.
Well, he did not email the report to me, but he wasn't able to prepare one. He had to leave on a red eye to Texas.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
his
we'll get it
mom's
next-
not doing well.
yeah.
But he did give me some information. He just basically said there are still some checks outstanding from the Blackberry Cobbler Festival, and nothing substantial has changed since last month.
All right.
And then he has some other notes, but that's for an agenda item coming later.
Okay,
But it-
thank you.
Yeah.
And our thoughts go out to Chris and his
Yes.
family.
Definitely.
Next item, the discussion of continuing to continue the rental of a storage unit for hub materials until a new hub location is determined. Last meeting, it was discussed that we would have this discussion, this vote every meeting. So, and then, the next item would be to, instead of discussing this at every meeting, we would discuss this quarterly. So for this month, as predetermined, we need to vote to approve to continue renting a space to hold the hub materials. Do you have that?
I have the minutes here. what we had decided, let's see, that's different item, let me get to the correct item.
I'm checking my notes too.
Yeah. Basically, there was a report, Elliot, the ad hoc committee, that they were still looking, researching additional locations. Full and frank discussions, Elliot, Chris, Robert, and other Lions will be meeting on Monday, which was the Monday following our last meeting. And we'll be looking at the needs of the Lions Club and the old portion of Little Red and other possible facilities. And then, let's see here, authority, basically we approved that, it was approved that we have the authority to rent a storage unit should it be needed. So the motion was approval, we were given approval. Motion, all in favor, motion approved to give Cobb Area Council the authority to rent a storage unit for hub items should it become necessary. Chris stated there are funds available to do so. Motion amended to be a recurring agenda item for monthly reauthorization. And then the amended motion, all in favor of that motion was approved. Chief Duncan offered space at the Loch Lomond Fire Station to be used as storage at no charge in kind. Suggested that we build a 10 by 12 foot shed from Kelseyville Lumber, that they could build that on site for us for $4,000 to $6,000 to be used for the hub in the Cobb Community Center parking lot. Also recommended using a pods container for storage. So basically it would be, I don't know that we actually obtained a storage unit.
He did obtain a storage unit,
Okay,
but
that was the missing link
Yeah,
there.
he did obtain a storage unit. I don't know what that amount was. But he was authorized to do so at the previous meeting. So now the question is, does this group authorize it to be rented for another month?
Yeah.
Yes. Microphones.
Okay, we did, Chris and Magdalena and I met with Paul at the fire station in Loch Lomond, and we did see a usable space there that we're going to use to store a good amount of the material, but not all of it.
Okay.
So there will still be a need for, at least on a short-term basis to store some of the larger things like the big tables and probably the pop-up as well. But a lot of the, and some of the longer-term fire literature we'll put in long-term storage. But in terms of stuff that we want to be able to access easily, Paul has very graciously offered us this storage space, as well as, I'll add, not just the storage space, but the use of the meeting room there, which we will be able to use for committee meetings, and it's fantastic. I think it'll be really a great spot, and as Paul pointed out, the fire station's always been a center of a center of community. We have many community centers here, but that's one of the important ones, and that's always been the intention of the fire department to make that available. So we are going to be using that space for meetings as well. So.
Thank you. So, do you want to?
And I move that we approve the rental of the storage facility for the next month.
Seconded by Paul. Any further discussion, question, comment? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Is that a question, Gleneth, or just, are you opposing?
No, approve.
Approving. Great, thank you.
Approve.
And,
If I may, with the use of the firehouse for meetings and or would it be regular staffed as kind of like we've been trying to do for the hub? I mean, in other words, would there be set hours that the community can come in and get info and that kind of stuff?
no, It would be just for storing some of those items and then if arranging to have a meeting there, not regularly being staffed. And Michael's asking, where is the temporary storage located? Do you know which place you looked at?
No, I don't.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I believe it's Hidden Valley.
Middletown is supposedly where it's at. Sorry, with Chris being called away last minute, we don't have all the details, but we will get those to you as soon as possible, and at the very least, at our next meeting.
And for the record, Cobb
there's no
Net
place.
radios are at Darlene, so contact
Yes.
Darlene if you need radios.
I am
And-
in possession of Mel's radios,
The keeper of the
as
radios.
well as the lockbox that was supposed to be installed at the hub, so,
Okay.
but,
So closely related, hopefully this isn't ongoing, and hopefully we find a solution to where the new hub space will be. It was, we are to discuss and approve the continuance of the rental of the storage space to be voted upon on a quarterly basis instead of monthly. That would mean we won't vote again until January on this, and then April, and then July, and then June, and then October again, but it won't be that long. So, so moved by Magdalena, seconded. Thank you, Inez. Any other thoughts or questions, discussion? Okay, thank you. Raise your hand if you approve.
I,
Great. And if you disapprove, all right, we will discuss this again at the January meeting. The 720 item is that there was an RFP for the Explore Cobb webpage, the social media management. So the Economic Development Committee did receive 2 proposals, and they did discuss. I don't have a copy of those proposals. I don't either.
I don't either. I didn't receive anything from Chris except for the verbal things we discussed on the phone
Right.
yesterday, and a check.
For the Lions.
Yeah.
I did get that they received the 2 approvals. This is from Christopher. They recommended one of them. There was one from Abby, who previously did our social media and our managed our website. And there's another one from Sally, and I don't even know Sally's last name. But the committee did approve, and they had a rating scale, and they looked at approach and methodology and timeline and deliverables, what's included in their proposal. And Sally's weighted more or scored more out of 100. She had 68 points, and Abby got 59 points. And so that committee is recommending Sally's proposal. She also provided a resume and a positive reference from another local, a local business. Her cost per hour is $35 an hour. I believe there's more specifics in her actual proposal that said how many hours a month she would dedicate. But again, I don't have that proposal with me. So we can either discuss, we can wait to approve till I can show you all these, or Chris can show you all these details next meeting. Is time a factor?
I know.
Hold on there, Glenneth. Time being a factor only in that time is money. No, I mean, it hasn't really been managed properly or real hands-on for, since like last February. So, it's not getting any worse, I don't think. We would hope to have something in place, I would hope to have something in place by by January, just if we do the Blackberry Cobbler Festival again, we need to start early. We need to maintain those relationships that are forged online. Gleneth, what's your question? I keep listening to the.
Oh, I just wanted to comment. I've worked with Sally. Her last name is, let me see if I can say this right. It's Wiatroliok. But I got to know her through Mountain Meadow as well as she's helped a little bit with our Sculpture Jam promo. And she did help me make radio voiceovers and stuff and submit them to the radio stations, which got broadcasted. So she knows what she's doing. She's worked for Mandela. She's worked for a lot of locals as well as some big festivals in San Francisco. So she's professional. She's very, anyhow, I think you would find her easy to work with and very professional.
So a recommendation from Gleneth. Yes.
I would like to motion to table this until the next meeting at the same time frame, 7:20 for that first Tuesday with the proposals.
Yes,
So we can do it.
I agree with that.
Seconded by, can the secretary second? Inez seconds it, that we table this discussion so we can have all these numbers in front of us and we can lend our full support to the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee's recommendation. So it's been motioned and seconded. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're so agreeable with one another. Thanks, everyone. And thank you to the Economic Development Committee's time. Okay, committee reports. We're on time. It's the 7:30, and it's time for 7:30 committee reports. Love it when that happens.
Yeah, it worked out.
Remember, there's a microphone at the back and a podium.
This is Magdalena Valderrama, reporting on Firewise Communities. I think we have one other leader in the room, but, so we'll let, David, are you going to say something about your guys's? David Thiessen? Are you going to end up saying something? No, okay. All right, so I'm just going to say that I received word from Firewise USA that 5 of our Firewise communities here in Cobb are due for renewal. That's Ziegler Springs, which I lead, Cobb View, Cobb Mountain Group 2, Anderson Springs is included in the list, Jones Creek Crossing, and then Loch Lomond, which they didn't realize was part of our area. We are also going to be working, sometime in the near future, the Lake County Fire Safe Council is going to be holding some conferences, some meetings and stuff like that, and there'll be a section there that will be dedicated to Firewise community kinds of things, because we want to, we just want to kind of start, we want to keep working with things like the Forest Stewards Committee and everybody that is on the lookout for bringing money in to help us with our brush clearing, defensible space, home hardening, and all of that kind of stuff. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Gleneth, do you have anything to say for Jones Creek?
Well, there hasn't been a lot of action that I know of. Richie's technically the head now, but
I know, and he
that
just
I know
left.
otherwise, but it's nice to have our roads repaved, and except for a few areas, which happens to be one of the small areas is right in front of my place, right? But the roads up here have been horrendous to drive on, and I mean, our cars are really seeing the effect of that. But it's great news that the unpaved areas are going to be done. Not great news from a second contractor, but that seems how they do things. So that's, yeah, nothing really about Firewise, unfortunately.
I would say, just to everyone, use those recording sheets and get them to your leaders. And everything counts. Just write it down. I also say it's not like filing taxes. It's okay. An estimate's fine. Okay. Communications Committee, Darlene.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing to report. We get about the same number of check-ins, around 30 each week. We are in the process of transferring our funds from the Ziegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association to the Cobb Area Council. So I've been working with Chris on that and Magdalena, and we've, so we're in the process. We discovered that there's actually some other things that we have to deal with from the original funds, and that should be happening soon. So you'll see in our treasurer's report a line item for Cobb AlertNet. And Mel is back from Australia. So, do you have anything to add, Mel?
Just at our last meeting, and I'm listening to Firewise, I'm just reflecting, in a sense, a lot of our fire awareness has slowly dwindled since 2015. And so those 30 people who check in are the same 30 people, more or
Yes.
less, maybe 40.
The backbone.
Most of them probably are listening to the scanner anyway, so that the purpose of our net to reach those 280 people who have radios, we need help to do that this winter. So we'll be brainstorming, but if anybody has ideas, I think we need to go back to the Firewise groups where we started the ground effort and just invigorate people without, I don't know if scaring works them. Our next newsletter is going to have some scary, because we're still in fire season.
Our
right,
logo's scary.
We're still in fire season. That was a scary fire for those of us who have the radios on, and I was not one of them, so I'm guilty too. The big fire. We're asleep, so.
I would have been involved in that, however, I was with fire personnel at the time, but unrelated to the fire.
Right, but, yeah, we're all asleep, I think, even down to a person, and because we want to be. Who wants to think about it all the time? But this winter, I want to find creative ways to invigorate our awareness and across the board. I think all of us thinking about that.
And I think that, like, we can be lulled into this sense of, oh, I have watch duty, or, it'll alert me. But if, technology fails us, it's the radios that are,
Yeah, and it's one
we'll be
among
relying
many
on. Yeah.
things, but if we got it, we ought to make sure it's working. Like the copper lines.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's some way to, if there was some way to evaluate, like, how many people are actually listening to the radios but don't interact on the radios, but they're paying attention. And then, maybe having some radio days or something. See, and of course the prizes. Prizes always work.
Yeah, that's where I think we're
People
going.
do things for prizes, but not public safety. Gotta give out pens and things like that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, without there being any response for you. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's hit and miss if there's somebody there to, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that's all I have to say. If Mel doesn't have anything else to add.
That's it. I'm thinking about cobbler in winter somehow.
Oh.
The winter hot stove
Warm cobbler
gathering.
pie. Oh, there you go.
What'd you say?
Cobbler and rum around the fireplace.
Hot
Blackberry
rum.
brandy?
What do you call it? Hot toddy? Or
Blackberry brandy, what?
well,
Okay. Elliot in the Forest Health Committee, you're up. I don't know if it's your screen, but I'll put him on there.
Okay, I'm going to talk about a couple things that are really lead on to both what Jessica talked about and what Paul talked about, which is we had our last meeting in September was a good kind of kickoff of an idea to apply for, now that we have our countywide community wildfire protection plan, we are now preparing to apply for another grant which will do a Cobb-specific community wildfire protection plan. And we discussed this with folks from around the county, and everyone, everyone applauded, thought it was a great idea. What this will allow us to do is, as Jessica and Paul said, the county plan is deliberately broad. And the appendix, there's this idea of moving the appendix out, but it doesn't really give you the detailed picture of what has to be done. It doesn't give you the detailed understanding that you have to really create a long-term fire-resilient community. And so the funds that one of the reasons that you want to have a CWPP active is that it actually certifies you to apply for a certain pot of funds that can be up to $10 million in project funds. And this is, now that we have a countywide plan, anything that's in that plan can now be, you can apply for implementation funds. However, that same grant pot will award up to $250,000 to do a local community wildfire protection plan. So we are going to apply for that, and with that, the Cedar Springs Community Redevelopment Association, our 501c3, will be applying to create a Cobb-specific community wildfire protection plan. And the idea behind that is that we will now look at it will be done looking at the Cobb area in detail, the idea to identify where are the priority parcels, the specific parcels in the Cobb area that need fire treatment, fire mitigation treatment, as well as what are the specific treatments that would want to be applied to those, and what will it cost. So we have a detailed roadmap. The other thing that will be done is not just, because if you look at what they say they want to see in these plans is yes, the kind of short term, we really need to do these fuel treatments, these fuel breaks, but what's the long-term understanding of the local environment, the local ecology? What do you understand about the specific, particularly in Cobb, we've got a very specific kind of topography, the way the canyons work, the way the fire history moves. How do we take that into account when we identify, well, what are the priority projects? What is it we really need to do? So what this will do, we'll also develop a landscape level understanding of what our long-term decades requirement is to really make sure that as we move forward into the future, we are constantly kind of creating an environment that is resilient, that makes use of, again, calling out specifically controlled winter season burning, that also involves partnership with the local tribes as well. This is, again, something that is being recognized as a tremendous source of understanding and knowledge about the local environment. So this would be something where we would have specific partnerships with particularly the two tribal bands that have ancestral stewardship responsibilities for this area, which is the Middletown Rancheria and the Big Valley Band. We'd be also drawing on we have a tremendous level of local expertise here that's represented in the meetings of the Cobb, of the Forest Health Committee. And what we will proposing to do is to actually have the members of that committee go out on a monthly basis and actually do assessments of what would be needed on specific parcels. So we will build a database of up to 100 high priority treatment parcels within the Cobb area. That also includes long-term stewardship of the landscape. The other element that we will include in this local CWPP will be a specific economic development strategy to build up our local forest management businesses. People with, and we'll be working with community development services, who will also bring additional resources to it, to the effort, to identify, well, what's the business logic? How many, how much work has to be done? Where would that money come from? How many businesses could it support? Where does the workforce come? So this becomes, again, this is something that if you look at the California state long-term forest management strategy, they say you need to develop your workforce to be able to do the work, and we would like to have that be done locally as much as possible. So we will be, again, SSCRA will be applying for this grant, and we are, since it's a federal grant, we're also going to be required to provide a 10% match. We've already had a commitment from, at least we talked with Mike Wink down at the LNU headquarters in St. Lena, and they're prepared to put about $5,000 into the project. Again, as I said, the Community Development Services thinks that they can bring a similar amount in from non-federal economic development funding to help us develop the economic plan for it. We will also count on the volunteer hours from our Forest Stewardship Committee members, who have agreed that we're going to put together a team, and on Saturdays we'll go around, and those hours will count towards the match, as well as the Firewise communities. Anything that Firewise community members do to help develop the assessment of the properties can be counted as part of this match. And we're also asking to use $5,000 from the Cobb Area Council's Economic Development Fund as part of our non-federal match for this grant. So it's a complicated project. It's something, I mean, it's one of these multi-page applications, et cetera, with budgets and tasks and deliverables that we will be submitting to the U.S. Forest Service at the end of this month. We'll have a completed draft of the application presented at the next Forest Stewardship Committee, which will be held at the Loch Lomond Fire Station on the 27th. That's what's happening. And I think it's really interesting, frankly, that this is happening at the same time as the area plan update is happening, because there's really going to be synergies there, as well as this idea about really wanting to regenerate the activity in the Firewise communities. All of this really is because let's face it, the fire ecology is one of the principal characteristics of the Cobb Mountain area. And we really, I think we're in a position to get the resources to do the kind of in-depth analysis, planning, and relationship building that will let us really move into a new kind of era of action, allow us to qualify for large amounts of federal funding as well. So that's the story. And so, any questions or comments?
How many folks do you have on the Forest Stewardship Committee right now?
There's about a dozen people who show up to the meetings.
Like, how many hours are they going to have to put in these dozens?
What we are going to ask for is and we got nods around the table, for one Saturday a month, we're going to want to do a 4-hour tour but that's going to go on this is a 2-year grant. So we want to do this over kind of a 12 to 18 month period. Well, we'll put together a team, and on Saturday afternoons we'll go out, we'll have identified, part of this grant also is, it's not just going to be that group. There will be kind of RPF, registered professional forester contractors, who will help us to identify the kinds of technical marks that have to be met, and we'll also review them, but actually make use of that on the ground foot power as well.
My question is, who's going to do the work when you need it?
You mean, well, what this does is this actually allows us to get the money to hire the people to do that, as well as to identify and build the local businesses that will be able to do the work here, rather than having to hire folks from outside the community.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Go ahead, Glenn.
I'm curious if biochar is still part of the formula. I mean, is that part of what you're considering for the grant, or has that kind of been ruled out?
It hasn't been ruled out. I mean, thanks for mentioning it. It's kind of drifted to the edge of my radar screen, you know, in the last month or so, but thank you for, but it's definitely, I think that particularly when we talk about creating a local, as Paul mentioned, a local biomass products industry, and this is something I know that Robert's been looking at as well. We're going to have these thousands of trees that are going to have to be processed, not to mention all the brush that has to be processed. What happens with that biomass? And how does that get regenerated and used to help restore the forests altogether? So it becomes more than just a fuels reduction or brush removal process. It actually becomes a process of feeding the forest, regenerating the forest, bringing fire back onto the land as it's appropriate. So yeah, I think biochar would definitely be part of it. Did you want to say something?
Very good for the soil, I know that.
So just to be clear, the CWPP is kind of like the process that we are doing for the parks and for the area plan. We're going to be having public meetings so that people can say things like, what about biochar? Well, what about, you know, getting people on the ground to actually do the work? So what we're proposing to the feds is that we actually have a process, that we're going to conduct that process. We are going to invite the public. We're going to come to the Cobb Area Council, have these, excuse me, have these public meetings, and then have the forest folks, either the stewards or the contractors, go and do the studies so that they can put it into the actual plan. So we're going to be building a community wildfire protection plan. This is not going to be anything that anybody's going to tell us about our community. It's us saying, this is what our community is like and this is what we need. And then that being on the record, then we can go to the feds or whoever the other grantors are and say, look, we did this plan. We talked with each other. We know what we need. And this is what it is in so many dollars, so many feet, so many acres. And then they have to say yes.
And so you guys, just to clarify, so you're looking for our letter of support so that you can apply to be
Right.
the
And we're also
entity
looking
that's
for
doing this work.
a participation in the form of a matching contribution of $5,000 from the Economic Development Fund, which will be used in the, particularly in the building of a business planning for local businesses in this area.
Right, right. I just want, does anyone have any other discussion or thoughts or?
Other than, did you want me to?
Sure, I can read it. We're wondering, two things. So we just need to like flat out promise the $5,000 and then, or can we get
that
a
is assuming
receipt of expenses or like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And again, this is contingent on us receiving the grant.
receiving it, right? So
Right.
no money parting fingers till,
Right.
so crude, sorry. So checks wouldn't be cut until you guys were granted the,
And we will work out specific agreements in
Good job.
terms of what it would fund and what portion of the grant work. Yeah,
An
we'll do
MOU.
a formal MOU about it, yeah.
it is possible to repurpose some of the $48,000 in the small business loan pot, because it is meant to be used for economic development and the continuance of that. So it is possible to take a chunk out of that loan and commit it to this. I mean, it's a possibility.
What's the amount of the grant again that you're seeking?
It's, the grant is up to 250,000. Right now, the budget's developed a little over 200,000, so I'm looking for 20,000 in matching contributions altogether.
Where's with the other 15,000?
There's 5 from CAL FIRE,
Okay.
5 from CDS says there's some, Jeff thinks there's some, definitely some CDBG repurposed as local funds that could come.
The CAL FIRE is
From the, I'm
unit?
not sure what Mike's fund is, but he said that they do have some planning funds,
planning funds.
right?
Okay. And the
LNU, and the rest will be in-kind contributions from the Firewise communities and the committee, and the stewardship committee,
The storage-
oh,
doing the actual
the
on the
volunteer
ground,
hours.
The man hours.
the man hours, right?
Well, I think taking it from the loan fund is appropriate, and it's been sitting there and it needs to be
Yeah.
used.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Well,
This is for the dollar amount, not the letter. Are we talking about
oh
that
yeah, we're talking about two
together?
different things.
As
Yeah.
Yeah, point of order.
Point of order.
So we should probably go in order of
Yeah.
how we have this.
Let's-
So I'm sorry, you're the chair, but.
No, I take your input on
Yeah,
this.
as far as approving writing a letter of support in support of this, so maybe we should take a vote on that first?
Probably.
Okay. So
I don't know if can I make a motion? I would write a letter of support.
you
I
can
motion
make
it.
a motion when there's a matter at hand and nobody speaks up, you can make a motion. And actually, a second's not required as long as
Okay.
there's enough where, yeah, but anyhow.
Are you gonna make the motion, Paul?
I'll make a motion that we support for the letter of support from C.A.C. to the SSCRA for community welfare.
Second.
All in favor of writing a letter of support?
I,
We have a letter. Oh, I didn't ask if anyone
no
was opposed.
opposition? Everyone in favor? No,
All in
no
favor?
opposed?
None opposed.
Okay,
None opposed.
so approved,
Approved.
excellent.
Okay. Jessica had put forth the motion that.
Well, I didn't, but I
Oh, no,
can.
You can?
So moved.
So moved. The motion of repurposing $5,000 of the $48,000 small business loan grant money to the purpose of matching grant funds to the Ziegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association in their Community Wildfire Defense Grant application. How about that for a mouthful? Seconded. Paul? Any other thoughts, questions, comments, discussion?
Just one
Yeah.
thing, we talked about the up to a $250,000 grant, but the big picture is that is going to be chum, so to speak, to get millions of federal
That's right.
dollars.
Chum,
Yeah, bring it in,
get a grant money to make get more grant money.
yes.
I think Chris had mentioned a caveat that it's definitely economic development purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, from the 48,000 loan, small business funds that we have, that it must be for the purpose of economic
Yeah.
development, so.
And an MOU would be put into place and signed for with representatives from Cobb Area Council And Ziegler Springs Ziegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association. Okay. Any other comment? Okay. All right, let's vote. Did you have another comment? No, you're ready to vote. Let's vote. All in favor of this promised $5,000?
Aye.
One, two, three. Are there any opposed? Put your hand down, Elliot. Okay. Approved. All right. Economic Development Committee? No report other than that they had met and discussed about the social media and website management, and they made a suggestion, but we tabled that. Blackberry Cobbler Festival, you mentioned earlier, there's one or two outstanding checks. And Cobbite of the Year, it's that time to discuss this year's Cobbite of the Year. If you didn't know, if you're a previous recipient, you're on the committee this year to pick this year's. I just put it out there. I made up a date. We could meet on November 30th at Cobb Mountain Pizza if you'd like to have a discussion and make your nominations. You can email me. You can text me. Whoever you think is a worthy recipient and ought to be recognized. And there's so many good people in this community. Other than that, our next meeting is November 16th. Yes? Sure, that's fine. Oh, we don't have to anymore.
Yeah.
Robert's rule of order says that I can just, if there's no other business, I adjourn this meeting at 8:01. I do have a sense of power now.